Hi everyone, I am Jack and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. This is day 5 of our 30 days C programming challenge. Today's topic is operators in C. So without any delay, let's dive right in. So coming to operators. So what are operators? Operators are the symbols which are used in mathematics and computer programming to do a specific action or computation. In C, we have different operators to perform different operations on the variables, like first, arithmetic operators, and second, relational operators, third, logical operators, fourth, assignment operators, and fifth, unary operators, and sixth, conditional or ternary operator, and at last seventh, we have bitwise operators. The arithmetic, relational, logical, assignment, and bitwise comes under the binary operators, which requires two operands to perform the operation. And coming to unary operators, the operators which requires only one operand to perform the operation. And coming to ternary operator or conditional, that requires three operands to perform the operation, right? So let's discuss them individually one by one. So first, coming to arithmetic operators, we have plus, minus, into, division, and modulus division. We know these four since our childhood, but this is the new joining in BTech, right? So let's assume this is a main function. And let's define two variables. Int num1 is equals to 13. Int num2 equals to 4. This is because as arithmetic operators require two operands, that's why I defined two variables. And to hold the results of this operation, we require another variable, that is int result equals to, so here we need to perform the operation. So the operand plus will perform the addition operation. So we perform operations on variables, not directly on the values. So num1 plus num2 and put a semicolon. And let's write the printf statement. The sum of percentage d. So why percentage d? So percentage d is to print the value of num1, that is 13, right? And percentage d for num2 is percentage d for result, right? And here we need to mention the variable's name, right? So the first percentage d is for num1 and the second percentage d is for num2 and the third percentage d is for result, and put a semicolon. This prints the output as the sum of 13 and 4 is 70, right? And coming to minus operator, so if we mention minus, so num1 minus num2, that is the difference of 13 and 4 is 9, right? And if I mention into, that is product, so the product of 13 and 4 is 52, like this. Okay. And if I mention division operator, let's say num1 divided by num2, which means, so the division of num1 and num2. So you are thinking like the division of 13 by 4 will give us 3.25. But here the variable result will holds only the value 3, not 3.25. This is because the variable result is of integer data type. That's why it holds only the integer value, not the decimal part. That's why we get only 3 here in the place of result. Okay. So the output will be the division of 13 and 4 is 3, not 3.25. Okay. And next, coming to modulus division. So if we mention modulus, that is modulus means, so if we perform 13 modulus 4, this is going to give us the remainder when 13 is divided by 4, right? Like, so if we divide 13 with 4, so 4 3 is a 12 and we get a remainder. So this remainder is the result of the operation 13 modulus 4, that is 13 modulo division 4. So we get 1. So this 13 modulo division 4 will give us the remainder when 13 is divided by 4. Okay. So the output will be the modulus of 13 and 4 is 1, right? Let's see this in the code. So let's create a folder, that is day 5. Arithmetic.c, and let's include a header file, stdio.h, and open the main function. So here we need to define the two variables, int num1 equals to 13 and int num2 equals to 4, and for result, int result equals to num1 plus num2, right? And let's mention the printf, like printf the sum of percentage d and percentage d is percentage d. Okay, and let's mention the variable. So the first percentage d represents the num1 value, and the second percentage d represents the num2 value, and the third percentage d represents the value of result. Okay, and let's say put a semicolon, and let's mention the return 0, and let's run this. Yes, we got the output, that is the sum of 13 and 4 is 17, right? So if we mention minus operator, that is the difference, let's run this. So the difference of 13 and 4 is 9. And if we mention into, that is the product. So the product of 13 and 4 is 52. And if we do division, means the division, let's run this. So the division of 13 and 4 is 3. So you can see this only 3, the integer part, not 3.25. Okay. And if we mention modulo division, which is nothing but the percentage. Okay, num1 modulus num2, that is modulus, let's run this. So the modulus of 13 and 4 is 1, because when 4 divides 13, the remainder will be 1. Okay, so this is all about arithmetic operators. And second, coming to relational operators. The relation operators are equals to, not equals to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So this operators compares two values or expressions and returns the Boolean result, that is true or false, right? That means they gives the relation between the two values. So not that relation. The relation means if it is less than or greater than, equal to or not equal to, like that. Okay, I hope you got that. So coming to equal to, this compares two numbers whether they are equal or not. So if they are equal, it returns true. If it is not equal, it will return false, right? So 5 equal to 3. This returns false because 5 is not equals to 3, right? And if 5 not equals to 3, what will this returns? It returns true because 5 not equals to 3. It's right, right? Okay, and if 5 less than 3 means it returns false because 5 is not less than 3, right? That's why. And if we have 5 greater than 3, it returns true because 5 is greater than 3, like this. Let us assume this is a main function. And let's define two variables, int num1 equals to 5, int num2 equals to 12. Okay, so to store the result we need another variable, but it is of Boolean type because, as I said, after performing this relational operation, it gives us the Boolean result, that is whether it is true or false. That's why we need to mention Boolean data type. So bool result equals to, so here we need to check the relation between those two, like let's say 5 equal to 12, right? And let's have the printf statement, and we need to give as 5 equals to 12. So this is because to show what we are doing, right? So what we are comparing. Okay, and percentage d. So why percentage d? Percentage d is to print the output of this result. So the result will give us 0 or 1. This is because these are the Boolean results. 0 means false, 1 means true. Okay, so if it is true, it will give us 1, and if it is false, it will give us 0. This will give us false because 5 is not equals to 12, right? So if 5 equal to 12 means it's check whether 5 equals to 12. So it returns false. So it returns 0. 0 is stored in the result. That's why to store it, we mention percentage d. Okay. And the value of result. And close this, put a semicolon. So this going to give us the output as 0 because the statement is false. Okay. And if we mention not equals to, that is not equals to, so this going to give the output as 1. This is because 5 not equals to 12. So the statement is true. So it gives the result as 1. So we get the output 1. 1 means true. Okay. And if we mention less than, so 5 less than 12, that is 5 less than 12. This also gives us 1 because 5 less than 12. The statement is true. So we get 1 as the output. And if we mention greater than, and that is greater than, so we get the output as 0 because the statement is false. 5 greater than 12, that is false. So we get 0. And if we mention less than or equal to, that is less than or equal to, so we get the output as 1. This is because 5 less than or equal to 12, the statement is true. Okay, so it gives us 1. Okay, and if we mention greater than or equal to 12, so 5 greater than or equal to 12, which means the statement is false, so we get the output as 0. So in this way we use the relational operators to check the relation between the two values. So let's see this in the code. Kill this and let's copy this and let's create another file, that is relational.c, and paste here, and let's clear this and let's define the variable int num1 equals to 5 and int num2 equals to 12, and let's define the another variable, that is bool result equals to num1 equals to num2. So I'm comparing those whether they are equal or not, but we are getting the error. This is because to mention the boolean data type we need to include a separate header file, right? So hash include std bool.h. Okay, so it's clear. And let's have our printf statement. And so first I'm going to compare as 5 equals to 12, that is 5 whether 5 is equals to 12 or not. So for that percentage d and the name of the variable result. So let's run this. So we got the output as 0. 0 means false. So whether 5 equals to 12 or not, that is false. So 5 is not equals to 12. Okay. And if we give 5 not equals to 12, that is num1 not equals to num2. So this is same as not equals to, but because of my theme it is showing like that, so don't worry. So let's run this. So 5 not equals to 12, the statement which is correct, so we got the output as 1. So 1 represents the true. And let's mention num1 less than num2, that is num1 less than num2, and let's run this. So we got true because 5 is less than 12, right? Okay, and if we mention greater than, that is 5 greater than 12, so which is false, right? So we get 0 because the statement is false. And if we mention like greater than or equal to, that is greater than or equal to, we get false because the statement is false. And if we mention less than or equal to, that is less than or equal to, we get the result as true because 5 less than or equal to 12, that is true. Okay, so in this way we decide the relation between the two results with the relational operators, right? And third, coming to logical operators, we have logical and, logical or, and logical not. But before that I want to tell you one thing, that is in C every non-zero value act as true as the boolean result and only 0 act as the false as the boolean result. Okay, even negative values also consider as true as the boolean result, right? So coming to logical operators, so this operators combines two boolean expressions or values and gives us the boolean result. Okay, So coming to logical AND, the logical AND takes two values and results true only if both the values are true, and it will return false if at least one value is false. Okay, so what I mean is, so if we have two logical AND 3, so this will going to give us true as the Boolean result. This is because 2 is considered as the true and 3 is also considered as true as the Boolean result. I have said you that every non-zero value is considered as true as the Boolean result. Okay. Only 0 is considered as false. That's why this logical AND will compare both of them. And if both are true, then only it returns true. Else it will return false. So if we have 0 logical AND 3, so it will return false. This is because we have one true but one as false, right? So the 0 considered as false. That's why it will return false. And if we have 0 logical AND 0, so eventually it will return false because there is no true value in either of the values. Okay, so in this way the logical AND combines. Okay, and coming to logical OR, so the logical OR take two values and returns the true even if at least one value is true, and return false only if both the values are false. So what it means, so if we have 2 or 3, so this will going to give us true because both of them are true, so it's not a problem. Okay, and if we have 0 or 3, so this is also considered as true. This is because even if at least one value is true, it will going to return true, so it is false, right? So false and true means true. Okay, like this. So if we have 0 or 0, so it will return false because both of them are false, so none of them has true, right? That's why it will return false. Okay, and coming to logical NOT, so what this logical NOT does, so it will reverse the expression result. Like, so if we have 2, right, true means it is true, so as it is a non-zero, it is considered as true. But if I put not in front of it, now it will become false. This is because the not will reverse the result. So if I have 0, means it is false. So if I put a not in front of 0, that is logical not, so it will turn to true, right? In this way. So not only for values, it also combines for expressions. Like if we have 5 less than 3 and 6 equal to 4, which means what this expression going to give us, it gives us false, right? And this also going to give us false. So for logical AND, if both the values are false, it will return false, like this. And if we have not, means this is false but this is true. Okay, but for logical AND, we need both the value as true to consider it as the true. So it has only one true, right? That's why it results false. Okay, but if we have greater than, which means this expression returns true and this is also true. Now as both the values are true, so now it returns true, right? Not only logical AND but also the logical OR. So it also combines like 5 less than 3 or 6 equal to 4. So this expression is true, but this expression is false. But overall this is going to give us true because as one value is true, right? That's why even if there is one value as true, so this logical OR going to give us true, right? Like this. So let's see this in the code. So let's kill this and let's copy this code and let's create another file, that is logical.c, and paste here. So let's have this as the variable, and at the result we need to perform the operations, right? So let's give it as 5, sorry, so let's give it as num1 logical and num2. Okay, so this going to give us the result, that is boolean result. And let's have the printf statement, like printf and %d and %d and %d. So why these two %d? Because to print the values of num1 and num2, like 5 and 12 and the result. Okay, and let's give the name of the variables like num1 for first %d, num2 for second one, and result for the third %d. Okay, now let's run this. Yes, we got the output as true because 5 and 12, that is true because 5 is considered as true and 12 is also considered as true. This is because they are non-zero values. Okay, and if I mention 0 in place of num2, so we get 0. This is because 5 and 0 is 0, because this is the logical AND. The logical AND will compares, so it will returns true only if both the values are true, and it will returns false even if one value is false. Okay, and if we have both as 0, eventually it will get 0. Okay, and let's give logical OR, that is logical OR, and let's give the numbers as 12 and 5. Okay, and let's run this. So this is going to give us true because this is true, this is true. So if both are true, eventually it will give true. But if one value is false, so even though it will give true, this is because for logical OR, even if one value is true, it will return true. So as one value is true, that's why it returned true. So it will return false only if both the values are false. Okay, so this is going to give us false. Okay, like this. And coming to not, means, so we note that the num2 is 0, right? If I place not in front of num2, so what I'm going to get, that is in place of second %d not. So we need to clear this because we have removed the num1, right? So let's run this. Yeah, we got the true because not of 0 is true, so it will reverse the boolean value of the statement. Okay, so in this way the logical operators will perform the operations and combines the two expressions and the values. Okay, and fourth, coming to assignment operators, we have equals to, plus equals to, minus equals to, into equals to, by equals to, modulus equals to. Okay, so what these assignment operators do? So these operators assigns value to the variable. Okay, coming to equals to, so this equals to will assign the value to the variable. So when we define a variable like int num equals to 10, So here this equals to operator will assign the value of 10 to the variable num. Okay, so by help of this equals to operator we will assign this value to this num. Okay, like this. And coming to plus equals to, so we use this as num plus equals to 2, let's say. So what it really means, so this is the shorthand notation for num equals to num plus 2. I hope you know the meaning of this expression. That is, we are updating the value num2 with the previous value, that is 10 plus 2, that is 12. So this 12 is assigned to the num and updated as 12. Okay. Now if we print num value, we get 12, right? And in the same way, coming to minus equals to, so num minus equals to 5. So this means num equals to num minus 5, right? So we are deducting 5 from the previous num value. So we have 12, right? So 12 minus 5, we have 7. So we are updating the num value with the 7 with this shorthand notation. Okay. And in the same way, we have into equals to. This means num is equals to num into 4, like this. So here we will update the previous value, that is 7 into 4 and 28, and we will assign this to the num again. So these are the assignment operators we use, right? So let's see this in the code. Kill this. Assignment.c and paste it. Let's clear this. Okay. So let's define a variable, that is num equals to 10, right? And let's print the value, that is num equals to percentage %d. Okay, and the variable name. So here the value 10 is assigned to the variable num with the help of this equals to operator, that is assignment operator. Okay, so if we print the value of num, we get the num as 10, right? So if I mention num plus equals to 2, so this going to add plus 2 to the same variable num. Okay, so it is same as num equals to num plus 2, right? Like this. Now what the output we are going to get, that is 12. This is because the num value is updated with the num plus 2, that is 10 plus 2, that is 12. So 12 is again assigned to the same variable, that is replaced. So 10 is replaced with the new value, that is 12. That's why we got the value of num as 12. Okay. And then if I write num minus equals to 5, now we will get 12 minus 5, that is 7. So let's see that. So you have got the updated value of num, that is 7. Okay. So if I perform num into equals to 3, let's say, okay, and let's run this, we get the updated output of num as num into 3, that is 7 into 3, that is 21. Okay. And if we perform division operation equals to, let's say, 7, okay, so we get the value of num which is updated as 3. This is because num is equals to num by 7, that is 21 by 7. 21 by 7 we get 3. So the value of num is updated as 3. Okay. So if I mention num modulo division 3 and let's run this. So we get the output as 0 because the num is updated as 0. This is because num equals to num modulo division 3, that is 3 modulo division 3, we get the remainder 0. That's why we got the output as 0. Okay. In this way, we use the assignment operators. Okay. And fifth, coming to unary operators. So this unary operators needs only one operand to perform the operation. So those unary operators are increment, decrement, ampersand, asterisk, and size of, right? So these are the unary operators which requires only one operand to perform the operation. So coming to plus plus, this is called increment operator. So what this operator going to do? So let's say we define a variable, that is num is equals to 4. Okay. And if I perform num plus plus, so this going to increase the value of num by 1, means it will do plus 1. Okay. Actually, this is the shorthand notation for num is equals to num plus 1, right? So I hope you know about this expression. So the num is added by one value and this is updated and assigned to the num variable again. Okay. So now the value of num becomes 5. Okay. Because num is updated with plus 1. Okay. In this way. And if I do once again num plus plus, again this going to do as num is equals to num plus 1, which means the previous value, that is 5 plus 1, and that is 6. So this 6 is going to update and assign to the num variable itself. Okay. So now the num will become 6. So in this way the increment operator works. And coming to minus minus, this is called decrement operator. So if we do num minus minus, which means this is going to do as num is equals to num minus 1. So it will going to decrease the value of num by 1. Like num is equals to num minus 1 means the previous value, that is 6 minus 1, that is 5. Now the updated value of num will be 5. Okay, like this. So in this way the increment and decrement operators perform the operations. So coming to increment operators, this increment operator is categorized into pre-increment, post-increment. So what this means? This 2 will going to increase the value of variable by 1, but the main difference between those two are, so the pre-increment, first this pre-increment going to increase the value by 1 and then use it. But coming to post-increment, first it will use the value and then increase the value by 1, right? So what this mean? So let's define a variable like 3. Pre-increment means plus plus num. Okay. And post-increment means num plus plus. Means pre means before and post means after variable. So listen this carefully. If we have a printf statement like printf plus plus num equals to, let's say, percentage d, and we have the variable like plus num. Okay, and let's declare another printf like num equals to percentage d, that is num. Okay, so coming to pre-increments, so this is called pre-increment. So what it means, first the value is increased by 1, means, so in the printf statement, before printing the value, first it will increase the value by 1. Okay, so as the value of num is 3, so first it will increase by 1, means it will become 4, and then print the value, that is 4. Okay, in this way. But coming to post increment, first it uses the value, means first it prints the value, it doesn't increase the value, first it prints the value, so the value is 3. Okay, then after it will increase the value by 1, means after printing it will convert the value of num to 4. Okay, like this. So let's see this in the code. Kill this and let's create a file, unary.c, and let's paste here, and let's clear this, and let's define a variable num equals to 3. So as you know, the value of num is 3. Okay, so let's have a printf statement like, so num. So this is for pre-increment, and percentage d for the value, plus num, that is pre-increment. So see here, so the value of num is 3, right? What I have told you, the pre-increment first increases the value by 1 and then prints the value. So we are going to get the value as 4, because first it increases the value, it will become 4 and then prints it. So we get the output as 4, right? Like this. But if we have the printf statement like num that is post increment, that is num and before that comment this. Okay, and here as the value of num is 3, if we print num that is post increment, what the post increment will do, so first it will uses the value, that is prints the value and then increases it. Okay, means whether it increases or not, let's have another printf statement to see the value of num after post increment, that is num equals to percentage d comma num, right? Okay, so let's run this. So let's put a backlash and run it. So yes, what you have got the output, right? So first it's not increasing its value, first it printing the value, means it using the value, after that it increasing the value, after increasing we got the value of num as 4. So this is the difference between pre-increment and the post increment. So the pre-increment first increases the value and then use it, and coming to post increment, first it prints the value, means it uses the value and then increases it. Okay, like this. So in the same way, the decrement is also categorized as pre-decrement and post decrement, right? So what is going to do, so the pre-decrement first decrease the value by 1 and then use it. Okay, and what this post decrement will do, the post decrement first uses the value and then decrease the value by 1, right? So let's see this in the code. So let's comment this and let's uncomment this and change it as pre-decrement, right? And let's see the output. So the pre-increment first decreases the value and then use it. Okay, so if you run this, we get the output as 2. This is because first it going to decrease the value by 1 and then prints it. So we got the output as 2. And coming to post decrement, that is num minus minus, and let's see the value of num after having the post decrement. So going to get the output as 3. So this is because first it prints the value, that is 3, and then it decreases the value by 1. So we got the output as 2 after post decrement, right? And coming to ampersand, this operator is going to give us the address of the variable, means its location inside the memory, right? And coming to asterisk, so this is the operator that dereferences the pointer variable, right? This we will going to discuss in the later videos when we discuss the pointers. Okay. And coming to size of, so size of operator will going to give us the size of the variable. So as we saw this in the variables and data types video. Okay. If you're not seen, you can go and watch it. So these are all about unary operators. Okay. And sixth, coming to conditional or ternary operator. So why I have mentioned ternary operator, because we have only one ternary operator in the C. So we use ternary operator to perform the desired task based on the condition. Okay. We use it as, so if you want to assign any values or going to print any print statements based on the condition, we use ternary operator. So for ternary operator, we require a condition, and this condition will going to return the boolean value, that is whether it is true or false. Okay. So after declaring this condition, we need to mention question mark, and then here we need to mention the statement 1 and then the statement 2, which means if this condition is true, the statement 1 going to execute. If the statement is false, the statement 2 is going to execute, right? Let's say we have age greater than or equal to 18. So if your age is 21, so as this is true, so it will execute the first statement. So we can give any statement like adult. So if it is false, which means he is a child, right? So if the condition is true, this is going to execute. So if the condition is false, this is going to execute, right? In this way. So this is called ternary operator, means conditional operator based on the condition. And ternary operator because it requires 3 variables, means 3 operands to this operation. Okay. Let's see this in the code. Kill this and let's create another file, that is ternary.c, and let's paste here. and let's clear this. So let's define a variable that is int age equals to, let's say 12. Okay, and here I'm going to print the printf statement based on the conditions. Okay, like if age greater than or equal to 18, so if it is true, it should be print as adult, and if it is false, that is colon, and you need to print child, right, and put a semicolon. Okay, so if I run this, what the output we are going to get? We are going to get as child, because your age is 12, right? Age should be greater than or equal to 18, but the age is 12, so the statement is false. Because of false, it executed the second printf. So the second statement, that is child. So if your age is 21, let's run this, you are adult. So you are 18 above. Okay, that's why, as it is true, it's printed the first printf statement. Okay, so this is all about the ternary or conditional operator. And coming to bitwise operator, this is the last operator which we need to discuss. But in this video, I'm not going to discuss here. This is because it requires bit manipulation, means binary system. So you need to know what is binary system, what are the number systems, and how to manipulate the bits. Okay, so that's why I'm going to make a separate video. That is the next video, which is going to get tomorrow as the part 2 of the operators. Let's discuss it there. Okay, so this is all about the operators in C except bitwise operator that we have discussed today. And tomorrow I'm going to discuss about the number system, that is binary, decimal, hexadecimal, and octal, and then bitwise operator. So let's meet in the next video. Till then, take care and keep coding. This is Captain Jan signing off.